What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chasing Green. I'm live tonight with the Golden Boy himself, Aiden from Cherry Creek Outdoors. We're just going to be talking all things public land. I met Aiden one of the first hunts we ever went on. Every hunt we went on has been public land. He's just like me. He's a public land junkie. So he's got a lot of good insight. And we're here just to learn from him and to talk some public land and answer some questions, as we get into the live stream. So Aiden, I'm so glad you joined me tonight. How you been doing, man?
Heck yeah, brother. It's good to see you. I've been doing well. Start classes Monday. Got a year left. So I'm just kind of getting into the senioritis, but I'm ready to finish this year of school out, and I'm ready for duck season, man. I need to kill some teal so bad.
Oh man, me too. It's been a brutal summer, just hot. I'm ready for duck season. So one thing that really just struck me when we first met and we're talking was you were telling me your first experience duck hunting. Go ahead and tell everybody about that.
So my first few experiences duck hunting were all solo, and they're all somewhat comical, but this instance, I didn't have any decoys to begin with. So, I asked my stepdad. He's like, hey, do you got any decoys or anything I can use? He's like, yeah, got a bag of decoys you can use. Like, sweet. I mean, what else do I really need? I got my gun and decoys, and I had a kayak at that time. Drove out to the lake, threw the decoys in the back of my kayak, paddled in. And I'm standing out there in the water and getting ready to throw these decoys out, and I'm late already. The sun's coming up. There's teal buzzing everywhere. I'm like, oh my gosh. There's teal coming everywhere, man. And these decoys have no weights. So I'm like scrambling, like, what do I do? So I had
just floating off.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm throwing these decoys out, and they're getting farther away, and so I figure out, okay, I need to tie a few decoys to some sticks and stick them in the ground. And then I got 2 or 3 decoys out, and in the process, I didn't even have waders yet, so I'm paddling around in the water, because the water's only 2 or 3 feet deep, but I was just paddling around, chasing decoys. The only teal I shoot is the one that lands while I'm out in my spread, which consists of probably 2 or 3 decoys at this point. And I just happened to shoot it, and my decoys are going everywhere. And then by the time I get set up with my 2 or 3 decoys, the teal flight is over. So that's the only one I shot, but I was hooked, man. I was all in.
Now, how old were you about this time?
I was 18. Yep.
So that was how many years ago?
5 years ago.
5 years ago. Well, that's pretty impressive. Going out your first time by yourself, you at least struck blood, and a lot of people can't say that.
By the grace of God, I guess.
So what really kind of changed everything for you, just from me listening to your story, was when you met Elliot. Kind of walk us through that. And talk about how important, that networking, that mentorship was for your duck hunting.
Sure. Well, I mean, like I said, I was green. I was running cross country that fall, so I didn't have a lot of time. But I was commuting to college. I didn't have a lot of friends my first semester, so I was praying for friends, asking God, please provide me with some friends. And I didn't pray about duck hunting at all. It's provide me some friends at school. But I showed up to this marsh that I'd been to once, put my kayak in at about 4 a.m. I'm going to paddle in somewhere about 1.25 miles. I've never been there where I'm going, but I show up, I'm about to launch my boat, and this truck pulls in as I'm at the boat ramp. I'm like, hey, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to the northwest corner of so-and-so. And they're like, oh, man, that's where we were going to go. And I'm like, yeah. and they're like, well, can we hunt with you? I'm like, Sure. I don't know what I'm doing, but you can sure hunt with me, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm just not really sure. I'd never been at a marsh at 4 a.m. before.
Now,
So
this was your first year?
This was my first season, yeah.
Okay.
First season. So I'm still 18.
After the decoys floating off.
This is a week or two after the decoys floating away. Yeah. I'm green. I'm fresh. So I'm just like paddling to this spot. I don't even know if these guys are going to be true to the word to hunt with me or not. So I go ahead and leave, paddle to the spot, and, meet up with them. And man, we don't shoot a dang duck that whole day. But I did eat some Chef Boyardee, and got to talk with Elliot and Carl, and I could tell they were Christians, and I think we probably talked about where we went to church and stuff. But pretty much from then on, we started hunting together every weekend, and Elliot's probably now one of my best friends that I've ever had. He is definitely the answer to that prayer, and I hope I can hunt with him for as long as we live. So
sure. And that's what I always try to tell a lot of people new to the game. And I see a lot of you guys are asking questions, and me and Aiden are going to answer some of those questions, but we kind of just wanted to talk about some public land tips at the beginning, so hang with us, but we'll get to your questions just here in a minute. But back to the note of meeting Elliot and getting that mentorship. I try to tell guys all the time that are new to the sport, the biggest thing you can do to be a better duck hunter is get in with good duck hunters. Like, that's the number one key. Better than watching YouTube videos, better than just anything you can do is finding a guy who's really experienced and who's willing to teach you. And, I always say, you don't always got to take everything from somebody. Every duck hunter has weaknesses, but you can take the good things from every good duck hunter you're around, and it'll make you a much better duck hunter.
Oh, yeah,
but
sure.
I was really impressed that the first 2 days we hunted, especially after that second. I just remember like hugging you in the parking lot. I'm like, I'm hunting with this dude for the rest of my life. I was like, this was epic. But so I've been around a lot of duck hunters, and some have that knack for knowing when to call. And I went back and watched the videos of when we were hunting, producing different clips, and just you have that timing to be able to hit them when they need to be hit. And that's something that's really hard to teach. Kind of talk about your progression on public land as far as calling goes, what you've learned and kind of how you've honed that.
Sure. I guess, I've just learned from Elliot. I guess the first season, Elliot was mentoring me, and I didn't call a lot. I did a fair amount of listening, so I didn't grow up in the sport, so I didn't listen to my dad or my mentor for years and years and years. I did a fair amount of listening, and Elliot would let me call and cringe, without me seeing, cringe at me calling, but he allowed me to try, and practice with him. And I was awful. I was terrible. First season, I didn't know any better. But I guess I was just trying to basically imitate Elliot. He would imitate the ducks, and then I would try and imitate him.
Yeah.
So in the second season, I did more practicing over the summer, trying to perfect the call. And I definitely got better. And I think one of the hunts in the second season I was with Elliot, he goes, "Man, you're so much better than what you were last year." And that's when I knew that I really did suck the year before, but he didn't tell me. So I think it's important, if you got a young kid, have them listen to you a lot. Do a lot of listening for them. Also have them call. So that way, they build their confidence. They might sound terrible. Have them do a little bit of calling. I think Elliot did a really good job with me, just allowing me to try and practice, build some confidence. And then I guess now when I edit videos, Elliot and I call at almost the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it's because that's who I learned from. So
sure.
I know when I call on the corners, it's because that's what Elliot does, and that's how I learned.
So. Yeah. Jonathan Gosney, had a question talking about chatter. This is actually a pet peeve of mine. I think people use the chatter way too much. I mean, in the timber, it works great. When you have a lot of callers, it works great. You know, if you got 7 people chattering, it sounds amazing. If you got just one guy doing that feed chatter that so many people do, I mean, I usually use it when I'm answering a duck that's doing it. You know, they'll be flying over and they'll hit that chatter, you know, that aggressive chatter when they're working. But I don't use it very much just because over my years of calling, one thing that stood out is just it has the most negative effect. You know, I've seen it just completely mess groups up more so than just about any other call. What's your opinion on the chatter?
I guess I think it sounds really good, like when you, me, and Glenn are calling and we're trying to get the attention far off and we're just trying to make noise and as much noise and as loud as possible. I think that's great. And then other than that, I would rather just quack on the corners. And then if a duck is really, you know, 4th or 5th, 6th time circling through, that's when I guess I would normally try and start chattering, because I guess what I've done so far isn't working, so I'll change it up. Maybe they need just a little more noise. So.
And that's like the key to calling right there. You just nailed it. And just so many people don't get it. It's about doing things and seeing how they react to it. And if that's not working, you're going to have to do something else. And
yeah, change it up.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of my philosophy. You know, call as much as it takes, but as little as possible at the same time. You know, but if they're not doing it, then we need to get down on them, you know. That's second
tough though, because like we want to call, because I want to be like, oh, I just called that duck in. But sometimes, you know, we just like, you know, sometimes it's better just say nothing and just whack them and stack them when they come in, because they're all up and they're on their way. So don't mess it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm bad about that. I mean, Glenn will tell you, you know, I'm bad about getting down on them. But, you know, like that second day me and you hunted, that was one of my favorite days ever. I mean, just getting down on them ducks and breaking them from a quarter to a half mile and like putting them in the decoys, like that is duck hunting to me. I'm running traffic. That's what I like to do, you know. Mm-hmm. But, you know, the more on the X you are, generally the less you need to call, because you're already where they want to be. But going back to public land hunting, you know, that's pretty much all you do. A lot like me, I may get an invite to do some private, but I'd say 90% of what I do is public. What would you say has stood out over these 5 years of your duck hunting that has helped you the most as far as public land hunting?
Probably scouting, getting on the X, like you just said. Sometimes, you know, it's hard to get out and do the scouting, but man, if you can hunt somewhere where even 20 birds have been versus going blind, or it seems like you'll do better if you can scout. And then another thing that's really important to the way that we hunt is we're trying to get away as far away from people as possible. So we're willing to walk that extra mile or pull the sled an extra 400 yards to get farther away from people. Sometimes it bites in the butt. Other times it doesn't, but I think a lot of times it pays off.
So you would say scouting is what's kind of really stood out over your time of public land hunting as far as success goes.
Because so even if you don't hunt that spot and you've scouted it, you know there's birds there, and you might never hunt that spot that season, but next season you're going to go back and scout it again. And the spot you were going to hunt is you see somebody else scouting there. So you're like, well, I'm going to go back to plan D. It's good to have a bunch of different plans and options. And sometimes that also bites us in the butt, is when we've got 26 options.
Yeah.
We're trying to decide where we want to go.
And I would say that it's the same for me. I would phrase it a little differently. But accumulating spots has been the biggest key for me. Having, you know, going from 20 spots to 50 to 100 to 1,000, you know, just having as many, even in different states, as you can, constantly learning new places is what has really been the biggest key for us. And, you know, learning those places, you know, we've hunted places so long that we know exactly what the ducks are going to do when the water's this, when the weather's this. I mean, we've hunted them for 10 years. There is no more scouting to it. It's just kind of like reacting off the conditions.
Sure.
And that's what I always try to tell people. You got to come at it from like a long game perspective. You know, you're making investments for the future each time you go scouting or each time you hunt. And so that's kind of been our biggest key for sure, is just accumulating those spots and trying to spend as much time on those spots as possible.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to throw in about the scouting is, you know, I'm looking at early season, or really any time in the season, I'm looking at water levels. And a lot of times I'll jot that down in like a Google Doc. That way I can check the USGS point later.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I know what that water level is going to be further down the road and what it looks like, what's flooded and what's not. And especially early season, I'm looking at what kind of vegetation is in each pool, because then I know where the food is at, you know, tentatively. You know, there's a lot of things the ducks want to eat, and there's a lot of things the ducks don't want to eat. So if you can kind of, you know, have a decent amount of plant IDs, smartweed, barnyard grass, different things like that, you're going to help yourself down the road.
And I tell people the scouting's good and it's great, but it's not always, you know, the key. Like last year on those 2 hunts, our first 2 hunts, like we went there, I think we hunted it 4 times, and not one time was there ever a duck there. You know, some of those days we come in at lunch and there was no ducks on the water. Nobody been hunting it. Like if you had just went and looked at this, you would have never thought, you know, what went down had went down.
Yeah.
If you had not seen the shells and the feathers. But, you know, every duck that we kill was not coming there.
Right.
And, you know, you got to keep that in mind sometimes about running traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's about scouting is getting under them, and not necessarily under the X, but just like they were flying that river that we were hunting. And we were able to pull them off that flight line. But that's what really blew my mind about that spot. Was none of the times that we, or any other places in that whole area, we'd never seen ducks sitting on the water there, other than the refuge. So that's something that I think guys should definitely keep in mind. And the way you got to run traffic is, you know, it strictly comes down to your decoy spread and calling. That day for us, I think it was a combination of both, but definitely started with the calling. You know, if you recall, we had no luck until the wind started blowing.
Switching south to north.
Yeah, like we worked a few groups early and they were flaring and you know, bumping off of us, but when the wind picked up and the decoy started moving, like it was like game over. We went from one to done. But so talk about your decoy setup. You know, I've hunted with you. I know kind of your style, and you're like us. You do a lot of walking. You do a lot of kayaking. So tell me kind of like how you've adopted your decoy spread to the public land style that you hunt.
Well, I guess I'm doing a lot of adapting this season. I just switched to Dakota decoys, kind of like you, and I switched from 4 ounce to 2 ounce weights. I'm going to try that out and just stomp those in the mud. That'll decrease my weight by half when I'm walking in, but generally I'm hunting with about 2 dozen mallard floaters, and I pretty much always go with the classic J. I prefer that. I like the J, but within my J, I like a few different, you know, groups. So I might have a group of 6 here and, you know, a group of 3 here, but I want it scattered kind of natural, like how you normally see the ducks. And then I always want a kill hole pretty much kind of off to the side from where I am.
Yeah.
That way, you know, if the wind's coming from my back, I don't want the ducks to look straight at me. So
Gotcha.
I'm a sucker for the J, and then I also just like 2 blobs on either side and a hole in the middle. I like that too.
So we converted you on the Dakota Packables.
You did, yeah.
They'll do it.
They look really good.
They do, and they're so light, and it takes so little wind to move them. They're sit a lot bigger than other decoys too. Even though they're not a lot bigger, just the way they sit on the water, they seem bigger. Which is kind of a special thing they do. I can't pronounce your name, buddy, but he says What do you guys think about mixing species in your spreads? For me, I like it, but like me and Abe were just talking about, we hunt public, so a lot of times we're walking far. If we're carrying a boat and the weight don't matter, sure, let's take whatever. But if I'm limited on what I can carry, I'm probably just going to carry like 2 dozen mallards. I mean, I like having teal just because you get like a lot of size contrast, or black ducks. If you study any kind of drone footage, darts really stand out in ducks from the sky. So for me, I usually use mallards like 90% of the time, but that's not because I don't like using others. It's just because I usually can't carry anything else.
Yeah, I don't have anything against any other species, but yeah, a lot of times we're just limited to what we can carry. If I'm going to mix a species, I'm probably going to mix something that really stands out. I've got a half dozen canvasback that I like to throw in because, I mean, they pop. You see 6 white decoys, it's kind of just, it's like, oh, yeah, there's something over there. Or then, maybe a few pennies. But I'm generally not hunting over, it's about 2 dozen mallards and half dozen something else. And I want those 6 to pop.
I'm a believer in the big spreads, especially, if you got the wind. I'm a believer in matching the amount of motion you can get away with the spread. If it's calm, I'm only going to use 10 or 12 decoys. If it's super windy, I'd like to have as many as we can get in most situations, even 60. But, it's just rare that we're in a spot where we can use that many. Lynn Jordan gets it.
Pack them all away, yeah.
Evan, we just spoke about this actually a little earlier in the stream, but basically, like I was saying about the first couple of days me and Aiden hunted together, you can go check out those videos on both our channels. But we were smoking them, and there were absolutely no ducks using this spot. We were strictly running traffic. Like we got there some days at lunch, and there were no ducks sitting there. That we were just on a flight line of ducks flying over, and we were breaking them with a lot of calling and big decoy spreads. And, that was the key to that. But if you had went there just scouting, trying to find ducks on the water, you would have just passed this place up and heard us shooting.
Yeah.
10 to 12 dozen. Do I think that's too much with good movement? No, I mean, I definitely don't. I mean, I've hunted over 200 or 300, however many dozen that is. Aiden's a college boy. But, I think it's more about the wind. If the wind's just hammering 15, 20 and they're riding those waves, as many as you can get away with, unless the ducks are telling you not to, like late in the season when they quit landing on.
Seems like the more decoys I've got, a lot more to look at and check out. So when they're deciding to come in, it's kind of feels safer because you got all those birds there.
Yeah.
I feel like they're less likely to pick you out because they're like, oh man, look at all of my buddies here. And so they're not looking at me, they're looking at all their buddies they're going to come hang out with.
And I think, if you got the motion, it kind of gives like almost like a trippy effect for them. Like there's just too much out there for them to focus in. Like if you only got 10 decoys, they can kind of look in on it. But if you got 100, they can't look over the whole spread. They kind of look and just see a bunch, That's the way I've always kind of viewed it. Adrenaline turkey call asking about confidence decoys. I've never used them personally. I think the coot thing only works because they're black. If you study any drone footage, black stands out big time. I don't think it's necessarily, I mean, in the shade and the right sun, even mallards look black from the sky. It kind of, when you look at them from a drone. So I think that has a lot to do with that. But I'm not a big confidence decoy guy. What about you, Aiden?
I always like to throw in a Terry the confidence teal. Terry really ups our game. So
we had a confidence teal for a while, but he quit doing the job, so we trashed him.
You shot him?
We didn't shoot him. We just put him in the garage.
He retired.
But he was working there for a while. He was the lucky teal.
I've never used a heron or anything, but I don't see why not.
Lynn Jordan asked about chokes and barrel length. I'll start that. Barrel length, man, I've done a lot of research on it, and it has very little effect between 32 and, even all the way down to 25 inches. I mean, you're not looking at much of effect on the pattern. I mean, that's why turkey guns are so short. I mean, people use really short turkey guns, because they're going through brush, and that's where you need the tightest pattern. Now, chokes, I'm a big believer in Pattern Master all the way. I've done a review on that on my channel if you want to go check that out. And I think I've converted the Golden Boy to the Pattern Master.
Yeah, wait. Here she is right here.
There we go. What did you wind up getting?
The Code Black Duck.
Okay.
I think I'm still going to use improved cylinder for teal in October and probably most of November. But come maybe late December, January, I'll probably switch it over. Just because, I don't need a Pattern Master for teal at 10 yards. And a lot of times we're shooting teal at 10 or 15 yards. So,
yeah, absolutely. I remember Glenn shooting that hybrid out there at about 50 and Aiden was like, I need some of that.
I didn't know they shot that.
He's like, wow, man, that was a dang good shot. Oh, man.
Well, you can hear it too, in the video. When I shoot with last season with my Stoker and just my stock improved cylinder, and you guys shoot with the Pattern Master, you can hear it's boom when the Pattern Master is cracking.
It gives the downrange energy, man. I mean, when we very first started shooting them, I could notice it every time it hit a duck. I could tell outside of using the camera when me and Glenn had shot one because it poofed them like a pillow, And I really noticed it for sure when I was patterning it for turkeys. I had my stock choke in there and was shooting like a piece of plywood, but when I put the Pattern Master in there, it knocked the whole thing down, and I didn't switch shells or anything. It was putting more pellets on it so it had more kinetic energy.
Sure.
And Corona Outdoors asks, where do we hunt? I'm in Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm in Kansas.
And everywhere in between.
Hoping to hit Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Arkansas this season, Lord willing.
Yeah, I'm planning to, Lord willing, go to Kansas, Nebraska. Kind of got some other things in the works possibly, but I'm really trying to spend most of my time in Arkansas and Kansas and Nebraska. I've actually heard of a lot of old timers using those milk jugs. If you guys got any questions, feel free to ask them down below. I was actually thinking about doing a milk jug challenge this year if I could get enough, just to see how much of a difference.
That would be interesting.
Really.
We're an all black decoy spread.
Yeah,
that would be interesting too. So I was thinking I got a couple old mallard hens. I think I'd really like to try that black decoy thing this year. So on 24 mallards and a couple black ones just to see.
Yeah. That's what Joel Strickland from Surviving Duck Season, he runs that every day. He's always got 5 or 6. And that's where I really noticed it. We were hunting with him last year, and we flew a drone over it. And, I mean, those black ducks stood out big time. So it's pretty dry. Yeah, it's pretty dry here too, buddy. Ported or non-ported, man. I've called Pattern Master about this and asked them, and it really doesn't. They say it doesn't have any difference on the pattern. It just has a difference on the loudness and the kick. But I chose to use non-ported just in case some energy was leaving. But they say that it doesn't. So, and I would think they would know. Timber or open field hunts?
I mean, I still haven't smashed the mallards in the timber yet, so that's what I'm really looking forward to. And I'll take water any day over a dry field.
Me as well. Yeah, I mean, I love the timber, but my favorite is what we call swamps. They're called marshes in Kansas, but that kind of thing. willow tree, smartweed, buckrush, prairie marshes, cattails. That's what I like, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So going back to the public land thing, like I said, you guys feel free to ask any questions down below. We talked about calling. We talked about decoys. You know, if there was one weakness in mine and Glenn's game over the past few years, which we got spoiled by getting on really good hunts, our hide, we just kind of let it slowly go down the drain. And I was probably a lot to blame for that. So, but I noticed you and Elliot, you guys are really about the hide. What have you learned about the hide, you know, as far as what it means for duck hunting, especially on public land?
I guess, well, recently the A-frame has really changed their hide. But before the A-frame, we would do a lot of, we still do, but a lot of layout boat hunting, especially early season. And, you know, we'd spend an hour, you know, tucking in grass, cattails, smartweed, whatever, into our layout boat. The hide just, it seems like a lot of guys slack on the hide, and it's really important, I guess, to the way that we hunt to shoot them at 25 or less, and preferably before they know that we've even lifted up our gun up. You know, if you can shoot them and they don't know you're there yet, my shooting percent is going to go way up versus a duck that it's escaping. So that's why the hide is so important to us, because we're trying to shoot them as close as we can. We're not really interested in shooting passing shots. Like, we'd rather just pass, wait most of the time, than shoot a duck that's just passing. So that's why the hide's so important.
100% agree. And the hide's definitely important when you're hunting mallards, and especially big groups of mallards. I mean, they by far will pick you out quicker than anything else.
And they're going to do that because they're going to come right on top of you. They're going to hear you calling. They're going to look down.
Yeah.
They're going to see you if you're not well hid.
Exactly. And I'm just like you, you know, I like shooting them inside of 25 yards. I mean, we can't always do that. I'm not scared to shoot them at 40 or 50, but 50 is getting out there a little far. I'd say 40. 50 on one that's hurting getting out.
Yeah. With that pattern master.
Yeah.
Problem. I've seen you guys hit them in the lips way out there.
But yeah, I mean, we like getting them in there tight and putting them on the water. The easiest way to kill one's when he's sitting on the water. And that's how I like to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big
That's just the kind of sportsman that we are.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of water swatting. And, you know, I get people say that on my channel. I don't know if you get it or not, but I mean, to me, if it was about the shooting, I would just dove hunt and shoot clays. I mean, the sporting is tricking that mallard into thinking that I'm other mallards. Like, that's the sport. Once I get him out in there, I'm killing him. Like, how dumb would it be if you like scared a turkey before you shot him? Get out of here, turkey, and then like start shooting at him, you know, like
shooting when he's running.
But for some reason, people don't call that unsportsmanlike, you know. But if a duck lands on the water, you need to run him up. And I'm not a believer in that. But
yeah, and I'm just gonna be more likely to kill him on the water. If I'm either gonna, best chance is right when he's landing, because he's practically stationary for a second. My second best chance is when he's sitting there. And then if I'm shooting at him and he sees me and he's going away from me, all of a sudden I'm shooting at his back and the target got a lot smaller.
Yeah.
And he's just getting farther and farther away. So I'm like, why would I do that when I could just shoot him when he's not moving? I
totally agree. Adrenaline Turkey Call asked about the chasing green hats. Man, it's kind of a big hassle to get started. You know, I've got a few, and I plan on, Lord willing, getting them out next season. But I probably won't this season just because it takes a lot up front to get it going. But I sure appreciate the interest, and I'll definitely get you one, buddy, when I do have them. After 5 ask on the Beretta. Man, my A300 sucks. I hate it. Done with it. I think I definitely got a lemon, though. But Glenn has the A400, and he's had a few problems out of his. Like, I'm just a big believer in inertia. Like, I will never get another gas gun. Unless I have the option to get multiple guns. Kind of the difference in general, there's no hard, fast rules. Inertia, more reliable. Gas, less recoil. A little more comfortable shoot. Oh, I hear some honkers flying over right now.
Oh man.
Oh, this is a good question. I'll let you take this one, Aiden.
Okay. Oh yeah, for sure. Just being out in the outdoors helps strengthen your faith for sure. I think you got to be intentional about it though. You know, as Americans and duck hunters, we can be really busy in our lives, especially, you know, with everything we've got going on, school, full-time job, trying to hunt Saturdays, you know, balance family, kids, and whatever. So I think you just really got to be intentional about it. That's another reason why we like to get out so early and get set up. And we've got, you know, 30 minutes or an hour before shooting light and we're set up. You know, all we've got left to do is hang out, so we can hang out with each other. And then, you know, that's, you know, obviously is we can invite, you know, God into that time too. So through prayer and just whatever we're doing. So yeah, I would agree with, I'd say yes.
Absolutely. Me too. And, you know, the camaraderie, which is what you're speaking on, like the interpersonal or togetherness, you know, definitely strengthens my faith. But also, I mean, I said it when I killed my first turkey with you. It's hard to look at a greenhead and a turkey gobbler and not see God. You know, like you can just, I don't know. They just, even though I've seen a million greenheads and held a bunch, every time I see one, it still, you know, awes me that like, you know, only God can make something that's awesome. So like even just watching them, you know, I guess you could see a different creation side of God.
Yeah. So I'm an aspiring biologist, you know, hopefully I'll graduate in a year and I will be, but you know, life is just so complex, even down to a simple cell to get that thing going. And then you got compounds and just elements. It's so complex. So I think it all points to God.
Absolutely. Me too. But in general, yeah, I think it strengthens my faith, but I do get weak during duck season sometimes because I'm just going so hard and I kind of let things go by the wayside. So I got to be watchful of that. I get out of my normal routine because I'm just on the duck season schedule. So that's kind of a challenge for me with it. But what's the biggest challenge being a public land hunter? Oozers.
Dang oozers, man.
Freaking oozers, man.
Oozers are driving the ducks down. I mean, I think kind of goes back to, you know, we talked about how important scouting was. I think that's the biggest challenge is finding the birds. And we could get on the pressure topic. I know Jake loves to talk about pressure. It's another big challenge with a public land hunter.
Yeah. Yeah. So they say. I'm not a believer in pressure. I mean, I know it does have negative effects on the ducks, but I think a lot of people use the excuse. You know, people have been pressuring ducks in Arkansas more than you could imagine since the beginning of duck hunting. These clubs ran 10 groups a day. They'd shoot a limit, bring new people in, just pound a spot all day long with 20 guns. You know, like, I mean, I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying, like, you know, we've done it one way forever, and I just hate the direction a lot of people are kind of the attitude a lot of people are getting. Because when you start talking about pressure, you start talking about one thing, and that's limiting hunting. That's the only way to relieve pressure.
Yeah, you know, I'm not about that. Like, let them have it, you know.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. So my thought is kind of like, let's just not talk about it. And because, you know, the only place that conversation is going to go is to changing the way things have been done for a long time. And there's more ducks than ever. There's more ducks getting killed per hunter than ever. Like, things are good. Like, we don't need to. I mean, we hunt public land every day. I can't ever think of a time where pressure was the reason we didn't kill them. So I guess the biggest challenge, though, is just man, that's a tough. I really just don't view things that way. I can't really think of a challenge. Not having good conditions, I mean, would be one.
I mean, the biggest challenge, just as a hunter in general, I think is the other things in my life besides duck hunting that come way before ducking because, it's responsibility.
Yeah.
To get those done just so I can go, enjoy my time.
Sure.
And then once I am duck hunting as a public land hunter, sometimes you got those guys that are coming in 20 minutes before shooting light. And then that's when the challenge of not absolutely hating those people that are walking in on my spot comes in. So that challenge of, not having a poor attitude at those people because, they're human too. And I've walked into a spot 20 minutes before shooting light also. So I think that's, I think sometimes we view the other duck hunters as an enemy, but really we shall be on the same team.
Exactly. I bet it's way better to hunt with that person walking in than have them set up 100 yards from you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I always ask, just come on, join us, or we'll come join you, whatever. Let's just not. Jonathan Gosney asked about water height. What do I like best? Wherever the ducks are. I've shot mallards where you couldn't stand. It was so deep, and I've shot them where, it was ankle deep. So Barron says the teal are showing up in Louisiana. How about that, Aiden? What you got on that?
I like to go, I think, realistic as possible, and then I like to just go with a few dozen decoys. And I guess if I can, late season public land, a lot of times we're talking like an ice hole, which, involves scouting, yet again. So scouting, finding the birds. And really you don't have to find like the hole they're using. You just got to find where they're flying over. Like we said a few times already, and traffic them. My favorite hunts are when I break ice and it's a fresh hole, but the birds are coming into it like they've been going there for days because I'm there. There's fresh water.
Ice is a late season duck hunter's best friend if the conditions line up. I mean, It pretty much makes it to where if they come, it's over.
Yeah.
It eliminates a lot of water, and late season though is definitely tough, man. And you either got to be on the absolute X or you got to be where there's a lot of ducks. Because in Arkansas, man, they get to where they won't even land on live ducks. I've seen it a bunch. Like they really start spreading out, and they're starting to court in late January, and the pairs are starting to break off. They don't want to be around a lot of other ducks, and it just gets ridiculous sometimes. I mean, honestly, we have a lot of our best luck like the last week of duck season on private ground. Unless, like Aiden was saying, you got some extreme conditions of ice or something like that, then you can really put it on them. He asked, how far do you hide from the spread? Or how far do you like to set the spread from your hide? Man, it really depends, dude. Every spot's different. I mean, I like to set it about 20 yards, where I want to land.
Yeah, we like to spinner between 15 and normally no farther than 22 yards because that's generally where we're going to be shooting them. But we've tried, I guess specifically when we're hunting a big lake, and a lot of times we're just sitting right on the edge of the lake on the trees and we're flaring ducks. We move back like 5 yards, and then like the next group we land them or light them up. So I think sometimes just moving our hide back can help.
Yeah. The Mississippi Outdoorsman says he's talking about brushing with the natural environment. Man, for me, I mean, if you can brush it with what's there naturally, why not? I mean, you might as well. I would do everything in my power to make that happen, to make it look as natural as possible, to put it in line with what's already there. Now, if for some reason that don't work, like the cover there, you just can't hide the blind with it. I think just breaking up that shape definitely helps, like especially on an A-frame, breaking up those edges and taking away just the shape of it helps. But if you can go natural, go natural. But if you can't, do the next best thing that you can, is what I would say.
Yeah, sometimes you just got what you got, and like A-frames and boat blinds in general aren't natural. There's nothing natural about a square box sitting next to the marsh, and people shoot ducks out of boats and A-frames all the time. So I don't know, man. Match it if you can. If not, just do your best. It seems like it.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, when you are an A-frame or a boat blind, try to break up the edges the best you can, as in like take the shape out of it, make it more of a blob than a square. I've noticed that works good hunting any type of game, because there are brush piles in places and stuff like that, fallen trees, anything you can do to break up the outline. Baron says, do you use Onyx? How do you find your duck holes and know their public land? We absolutely use Onyx. I pretty much stare at it all day, every day during duck season.
For sure. An important thing, remember with Onyx is it's not probably going to have the refuge on there. I know in Kansas, the refuges are not on there. And I know guys that got busted. My first day of work in May this summer, we had to bust some guys for hunting the refuge because, Onyx said it's public, but, you got to read the sign that was right there that you walk by is the refuge. So when you're using Onyx, just make sure you're also checking with the local laws and regulations, because it doesn't show some of those things.
That's an excellent point. What were they hunting in May?
Turkeys.
Oh, so you can't even be in there turkey hunting.
That specific refuge is closed all year.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, like in my state, a lot of the refuges, it just varies by wildlife area. So you got to know the dates for that area.
But yeah, I mean, I would say as far as Onyx goes, it's definitely one of the biggest keys to our public land game. Learning new spots. Now, if you're hunting a spot you've hunted for 10 years, is Onyx that important? Not really. I mean, you can use the line distance tool and stuff like that. But when you're trying to find new areas to hunt, Onyx is the best tool out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, the layers are really useful. You just got to make sure you've got the right layers on in the settings, because you might be looking at the map and it's like, oh, this is all private land. But if you turn on the right layer, I think Nebraska has probably like 8 or 9 layers. I think I use 4 or 5 out of the 8 or 9.
Yeah,
they're useful.
Do you use Onyx a lot? I mean, is it a big part of what you do?
Oh yeah. My map is pretty colorful with pins everywhere, and different. Like for me, different colors mean different things on my maps.
Me too.
And a lot of times I'll take a picture of the area and then make a note of the day and time I was there. That way I kind of know the conditions and what I'm writing about. But yeah, my map I got lots of pins, I'm sure, just like you. So,
and that's kind of how I use mine now too, almost like a journal. Like I'll screenshot the river levels and put a pin where we hunted that day and like put those river levels in there. So it's kind of like a journal. I can go back and look. I have all my information in my map. And that's huge for me. We use the topos all the time too, especially like when we come to Kansas. We were constantly using the topos, like on those lakes and stuff, to see low areas, where there might be water if the lake was high. So that was a big help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Thomas is talking about Arkansas. Yeah, you can't touch brush here on public land. I mean, you can get like down stuff, like if it's like broke limbs, but you can't cut anything. That's the key in Arkansas. You can't cut, nail, any of that stuff. So it definitely makes the hide hard, but Arkansas is blessed with a lot of timber and thick stuff, so you know it's not as important as it is. What's your go-to mallard call?
Mine is the Zinc Power Hand, and it's a double reed.
The old PH2.
Yes, sir. But I would really like to try a single reed. It just didn't make the budget for the new gear I was buying this year. But when you guys blow, I think you guys use echo calls. Yeah, honestly, I'm a sucker for that noise. Like, I want to make that.
Yeah, echo has been my go-to call for a long time. In Arkansas, there's kind of a battle between Rich and Tone and Echo. You know, the R&T Mondos and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the Echo is just, I only use one call. I never change. I never switch. Like, I mean, I found that call. It's the right call for me. Like, I just never, it can get low and quiet, and it can get loud and high. So I never have to, you know, switch between a double or a single or a acrylic or wood or whatever. So that's good for me. Echo would probably hook you up with one if you had called them.
I guess, I mean, I could call them.
Be like, hey, man, I've got a YouTube channel. Give me some free stuff.
I could try it. Kind of shy, I guess.
But yeah, my go-to mallard call is the Echo single reed timber Coca-Cola. I like the wood. It kind of muffles that single reed a little bit. Acrylic single reeds can be too loud a lot of times. I use the Duck Commander Drake whistle, and I pretty much use that Drake whistle for all my other kinds of whistles too. But I'm a big believer in the teal whistle and, you know, adding in those other little sounds.
Yeah. One change I'd like to make this season is instead of, you know, we do switch, you know, like we talk about, to the chatter a lot softly when they're close or when we want some extra noise. I'd like to try and just do the whistle a lot more this season and make like a dedication. I'm going to try the whistle more because we still use it, but not as much, and see if that makes a difference.
Yeah, our buddy Gus, he hunts with us a lot. I think he hunted with us when you went, but
yeah.
He's kind of our designated whistle guy. Like, that's what he does.
Oh, really?
Like, he's the Drake whistle guy. He's the teal whistle. So I've seen it work some, but it's definitely, I don't know. I'm just not the biggest believer in it, but I'd be interested to see what your results were. I think you should definitely do that. I'd be interested to see how it worked. I'm kind of like you, though. I don't like putting in a lot of filler stuff. Like, I only like to call them on the corners or when I have to.
Right.
Like, a lot of times people feed for absolutely no reason. Like, they're working, they're coming, and they just think they need to make noise. Like, just drop your call and just sit there.
Yeah. But another thing with the call is like how loud you're calling, and I know you've touched on that. But you know, when they're close, you don't gotta blow their eardrums out. That's pretty cool.
Top 3 favorite ducks, Golden Boy.
I've never shot a canvasback drake. I've always wanted to, so I don't know. I'm going to say my favorite is just mallard drake with, you know, like 5 or 6 curls. That's going to be my favorite. That's like, man, this duck came from Canada.
Yeah.
So many curls. That'd be my favorite duck. And then I've never shot a ruddy duck either. I'd like to shoot a ruddy duck. I'd say my second favorite, though, is Drake Spoonie. All the way.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
Over a pintail?
Pintail's number 3.
Oh, my
Mallard, Spoonie, pintail.
Everybody's got their own thing. That is insane.
He just wants to be my friend, and I'm okay with that.
Spoonies want to be everybody's friends. That's why I don't shoot them. They're like shooting a coot. They're just like, poor little thing. I didn't know you never shot a ruddy duck. We could have got you on plenty of them when you were in Arkansas.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've never shot a ruddy.
We get them
come through pretty early here, and then or a lot of times it seems like they're on the big water, and we just don't hunt the big water till it gets cold.
Yeah, we get a lot of them. For me, it's definitely the mallard. I mean, I'd be fine just shooting mallards forever. I'm old school mallard purist, but I love shooting pintails too. Mallard pintails. And third would probably be, that's a tough one, but probably green wing teal. I mean, I just love shooting them and they taste awesome.
So you'd say spoonbill would be your fourth favorite then?
Spoonbill would be at the bottom. Like the only thing below a spoonbill is a coot, like or a Hoodoo McGanser. I'll take a spoonie over a Hoodoo McGanser. But dude, I hadn't shot a spoonie in like 10 years. I mean, it's been a long time.
Like if I shot a fully plumed out spoonbill drake, I would mount that sucker.
Now I am on the lookout for one of them. We just don't ever get them. Yeah. But if I seen one that was perfect, I'd shoot him and mount him. But they usually look pretty good here, but they're not, just that perfect one.
Right.
I have seen a few, but yeah, Spoonie is definitely way down the list.
Turd eaters. Tim Cochran said they're turd eaters.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care.
He gets it. Adrenaline asked about Lincoln Onyx. Yeah, you can definitely, whatever you do on your PC for Onyx also connects with your mobile. It's all in the same program. So, if you mark stuff on your computer, it's going to be marked on your phone when you open it up. And I highly recommend checking out Onyx on your computer because you can see a lot more. And they've actually got this new feature that's 3D on your computer. So like the topos are laid out in like 3-dimensionals. Like you can see the shapes of the hills and the dips. I mean, it's really awesome. So if you haven't checked out Onyx on the computer or desktop, I definitely think you should do that. You can see so much better. It gives you a lot better picture. Thanks for joining us, Tim. I agree with you on the spoonies. I don't shoot them. I've stopped people from shooting them in the group.
No.
But the one day I didn't go, like a few years ago, they shot like 3 limits of spoonies. I was like, I'll leave here one day.
We got to get them in today.
I was trying to look.
So you would shoot a merganser over a spoonie?
No, that's why I was saying I'll take a spoonie over a merg.
Okay. Yeah. I saw this meme the other day. It said, it's not much, but it's honest work. And above the meme, it was shooting a merganser and letting the current float away in the current. Like, yeah, those things are gross.
That's messed up. Sorry to hear about your hunting partner passing away, man. I couldn't imagine that. Yeah, it's always fun for me meeting new people and hunting with, as long as they're decent in what they're doing. But yeah, I definitely just could shoot mallards forever though. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
My thing, some people, it's kind of popular now to not be on the mallards, but I think anybody that kills them would disagree with that.
What's your favorite time of year to shoot mallards?
Oh, well, the earlier the better, just because they work so much better. Like they're not as pressured and they're not as call shy and they're still in big groups. Like that first couple days me and you hunted together, it was straight big groups. Like,
yeah.
It's kind of hard to do that in January unless you just get on the perfect thing. So I'd say for me early, but anytime. I like it from the beginning to the end. So
yeah,
my favorite conditions though would be sunny in some swamp or marsh somewhere, cold as crap.
Yeah, I agree. Sunny and an ice hole would be my favorite conditions. So I was gonna say January just because that's when that normally happens, the ice hole.
Yeah.
But they are tougher. It seems like late January, especially. I guess it seemed like I noticed it most last season when I went down to the south part of my state, and they were tough to work.
Yeah. They are definitely tough to work the later it gets. I mean, in January, it gets ridiculously tough here. December is usually pretty good. Really, it comes down to, it doesn't really matter when it is. It comes down to weather. I mean, weather, big weather conditions, big weather events is what brings fresh ducks, which are easier to kill. If we get a fresh migration in January, we'll smash them. But if we're hunting ducks that's been there since November, you can hang it up. It's just, they've actually did a lot of satellite study here, and the ducks will get here, just say they get here in November, they find a refuge and they find a food source, and they bounce back and forth between that every day. Like, they never deviate from it. Like, their telemetry thing will be just like that.
Really?
Back and forth, back and forth. And about February, they leave, and they'll show up on radar again back in November.
You got any major differences, just maybe either for your gear or hunting style coming up this year?
Not really. I mean, I've been doing it so long, I've kind of learned what I like, and it's kind of set. I mean, hunting in the open prairies of Kansas and stuff definitely changed that. I mean, I'd like to get an A-frame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the biggest change for me is going to be not having Glenn. So carrying stuff is going to be a little different. That dude was a beast with the sled.
He is a beast.
Yeah. Filming stuff's going to be a little different.
Did you decide what you were going to do with that?
No, not yet. I'm going to try to put out a video and see if God just brings me the right person to film. But if not, I'm just going to GoPro it. I guess I'm going to throw it out there, but if I could get the perfect film guy, it's just so hard to film waterfowl, man. Like, it's hard to train somebody in 2 weeks how to do it.
Yeah.
It says 5 greenheads and a pintail. That's my perfect limit.
Yeah, me too. Me too, brother. Now, I think they really need to change the pintail to about 3 drakes, because there's plenty of drakes. There's not that many hens, but I think the biology would point to that too, is that if we could shot more drakes, it wouldn't really decrease the numbers. But that's, I guess, maybe in the future they'll change that.
Well, I've heard it's in the works now. I was listening to a biologist on a podcast, and they're definitely talking about it. It's just going to take a little while to implement it, but they're thinking by 2023. We should have that. Explain why that is, because a lot of people don't understand that.
Oh, okay. I'll do my best. I guess, like, there's only so many pintails, right? And you've got a certain number of males and a certain number of females. You only need 1 male to breed a female, and I guess I've heard that, the drakes, there's so many drakes trying to mate a female that a female either gets unhealthy and then isn't able to raise a brood, or that, they kill the female during the reproduction process. And then pintails specifically nest their broods away from wetlands. They nest in sparse covered uplands. So a lot of times that looks like a corn stubble or wheat stubble for the pintail, which then they get drove over by a tractor. So
yeah,
I guess, is that what you were looking for? I'd have to do more research.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that pretty much nails it. I mean, the pintail population, the drakes, more specifically than any other species, are way out of whack with them, and they really don't know why, but there's just a lot more drakes than I've heard different numbers. Like, there's 1 hen to 3 or 4 drakes. So it's like, if we shot these unneeded, unnecessary drakes, it might even help the population, because like you said, they're actually hurting the hens because there's not enough hens to breed. So they're just like wearing them down during the breeding season.
I think the biggest obstacle for the pintails is where they nest.
Yeah, and
that's organizations like DU, Delta are really important to invest in because, they're buying that property on the nesting grounds, North Nodak and Canada, too.
Yeah.
Those areas.
And that's a huge problem that I don't see getting fixed because it makes the most sense for the farmers to not till, so they leave that stubble there for erosion purposes and stuff. And
soil health,
yeah. So and that stubble looks just like pintail nesting habitats. The only way you could stop them from getting wiped out would be to stop that farming practice, unless you could just get, like you said, DU and Delta and different gets enough habitat to make up for it. But they would have to. They've did nothing but decline for the past 20 years or so. I've seen a lot of people ask about a dog. Man, I would love to have a dog. I typically always have hunted with a dog. I train my own dogs. It's just, I was a broke college kid and now I'm a broke YouTuber, and it's just, I haven't been able to afford one. And we started filming about 4 years ago. And so I didn't want to bring a new dog that I had to train to the mix of that, because we were trying to learn how to film too. Just conditions have not been right for it, but I hope to get a dog just as soon as I can. What about you? You got any plans for a dog?
Nothing in concrete, but I got 1 year left in school. So where I'm renting right now, I can't have a pet, which is really okay because I'm too busy with school and work and hunting anyway. But I would like to get either Black Lab or a Golden Retriever here in the next 2 seasons. Maybe that'd be like a graduation present to myself or something. I'm not sure, but it's definitely in the, Lord willing, in the future.
Cool, man. Yeah, it'd be awesome. We'll both have dogs. That'd be sweet. Asking about the drought in the prairie pothole region. Man, I've listened to a lot of people from Delta and stuff talk about it. It's not going to be good. It never is. We're not going to have many juvies. And it's not that big a deal right now. This fall flight will definitely not be as good. But if it happens another 2 or 3 times, yeah, it's going to not be good for the population at all.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a huge difference this year. But yeah, it's when the compounding effect starts to occur, that'll be a big difference. But there's still some areas that are able to produce some ducks. So.
Yeah, we've had some of the best conditions ever for the past 15 years, and that's why duck numbers are so good. And they go through these cycles, and we're bound to have another downturn at some point. But hopefully it won't be now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely need a bounce back spring next year. I was looking for any more questions here, but yeah, I definitely hope to get a dog soon. They're just really freaking expensive.
Yeah, well, you gotta get somebody to give you a dog.
Yeah. I need to try to talk some breeder into doing that. If there's any breeders on the stream, I'd gladly take any free dogs you're giving out.
Also, if Echo calls on here, I'd gladly take an Echo call.
Yeah. So, what are your plans for the waterfowl season? I know you're planning on coming here, and
here in I guess shoot 2 weeks. Plan on hunting the Nebraska opener. I'll be in Kansas 3 weeks then for teal season, and I got 1 week off, which between teal and big duck, and my grandma has coined that weekend for me to help in their yard. So busy with her that weekend. But then pretty much my next 5 weekends are planned, all out of town, hoping to come visit you over Thanksgiving. And then my next pretty much available weekend is like November 13th. So I got a lot of hunts planned. I'm hoping to get together with a buddy from Florida. I think he's coming up here early November. Got quite a few weekends with Elliot and Carl, freelance duck hunting plans. So it's an unfortunate thing about hunting on the weekend is there's so many people you want to hunt with that they fill up pretty fast.
Yeah. So we got planned to meet early in November, the 6th. And then we've got planned to hunt opener here in Arkansas. And then I'm hoping to come up on your Christmas break, like that mid to late December range, and hunt for like 2 weeks. And then late January. So that's 4. And then hoping to meet y'all for the teal, the opener in Kansas. So that'd be 5. That'd be a pretty good round.
Yeah.
If we can make all those happen, I foresee some good hunts from that. I'm also planning to hunt Nebraska if I can, Oklahoma.
When you're going down to Oklahoma?
Probably like early December, right before I come up to meet you when you get off for break.
I got you.
Their split's like going on. Their duck season comes back in while Arkansas is on split, so I'll try to probably go there and then meet you when you get out for like December 14th and probably stay to like December 23rd or something like that.
Sweet.
And bust them in that one spot.
Yeah.
The secret hole. Few more questions here. What type of shells do you use?
I normally shoot the Federal Sure Shock. This year, just because I got kind of antsy and I didn't want to wait, I got Fiyoshi, and that stuff is zinc plated. So I've never used anything besides steel. I know Boss works really well, but hopefully this zinc plated stuff does all right. I'm not sure about it. What about you?
I usually use Federal Speed Shock 2 number 3s, 3-inch number 3s, but only because that's just a cheap shell. I mean, I think a lot of people have the misconception on shells. Like, there is no best shell because they all shoot differently out of different guns. I mean,
right.
You could have 2 of the same model guns, and they're going to have a little bit of variation in the barrel, and they just all shoot different shells differently. So you can't really say. The only good thing you can say about a shell is that they're not dirty or that they don't misfire a lot. Other than that, how it shoots is going to be completely dependent on your gun and choke.
Mm-hmm.
But I shoot whatever's cheap. I'm not paying $300 for a case of balls. So I'm just not.
But I'm like you. I like number 3 size too. But I like 6s early season. Just you got that many more pellets out there, and when I'm shooting mostly like an improved cylinder early season, so I'll take those extra pellets for teal and early big duck.
Yeah, Titus went to shooting those 5s and 6s at big ducks. Now it's like tungsten and stuff a lot of times, but he said all that extra pellets has made a difference for him. Like it's more pellets on target, more energy. But I like to stick around 2s and 3s. I mean, I kind of get a one fits all. I may be shooting geese. I need at least a 3 at the smallest.
Yeah, for geese, I'll just whatever I can get my hands on. I guess I don't think I have a preference really for geese. Just preferably something 3 or bigger.
Yeah. Tim asked about the hats, man. I'm hoping to get them next season. I said it earlier, it kind of takes a lot of upfront costs to get it going. And so, I got to buy so much product. And then, but I really appreciate the interest, and I hope to get those out to you guys that want them next off season, Lord willing, if we're still kicking here. Asking about private land, asking for permission. You got any tips on that, Aiden?
If you're a college student, I throw that out there right away. I say, "Hi, my name is Aiden, and I'm a student." People seem to, I don't know. It seems like they have a soft spot for students, at least in my area. So I throw that out there because I can, and then I ask for a specific date and time. People don't like open-ended questions. Hey, I just wonder if I could hunt your pond sometime. I think that deters a lot of people. I ask, can I hunt this Saturday for one day, and I'm going to have 3 guys with me. I give as many specifics as possible. That way they know what they're getting into. And then if I can, I'll get, exchange information as far as contact info. That way they can contact me if something changes. So I just try and be, approachable. If a conversation opens up, it's like a farmer. I'll be like, yeah, I worked, with so-and-so over here. You might, maybe know him. Just because, I kind of, a lot of these areas I've worked on a couple farms, or, maybe they know somebody. So I could try and be relatable in some way.
Yeah. When we were turkey hunting together up there, I was letting Aiden ask all the permission. This boy from Arkansas goes up here. He just sounds like he could be trouble. He's going to wreak havoc out there. I can tell by his accent.
Dang oozers, man.
You remember that one weird cat that we asked for permission on? He wanted us to stack rocks for him.
Oh, yeah.
He comes riding out there to us.
I was like, I think we're okay. We don't want to hunt here anymore. It's all right.
We never could get a straight answer from him.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, okay.
Yeah. At one point he said it was okay. And then he said something about having to do work for him first. And then it was like, well, he might get shot. And I'm like, well, I guess, we'll skip it this time.
Yeah. As far as for me asking for permission, a lot of that comes from networking. Me and Glenn have been blessed to hunt on a lot of private land around here in Arkansas, and that's because of the people we know. I mean, that's why it's important to get outside of your comfort zone. I mean, it's not easy for anybody to go make friends. I mean, but you need to really build your network, and I say that all the time for people. I can't tell you how many ducks I've been put on just strictly because one of my friends called me and told me about it, or, we got permission to go somewhere because we knew somebody. I mean, it's all about connections and relationships. That's what it comes down to. I've never had much luck, especially the past few years, get permission just randomly. I mean, we probably asked 15 people when we were in Kansas and didn't get one. It was just like, a lot of them
not friendly to oozers.
Yeah. Well, heck, a lot of them, we get asked all the time. We've been asked 10 times this week, and we just don't let people go out there, But
there's certain areas that you're just not going to get permission in the state. And it seems like, I don't know, specifically on the northeast side of the state, it is tough to get permission. But once you get into central, you get away from over an hour away from college campus, and all of a sudden you can get permission. But close to campus, it's seems near impossible to get permission.
Easy there. You're giving out vital information.
Just saying.
Central Nebraska, that is.
Western, easy to get permission.
Adrenaline asked about high and dry. Man, I plan on putting a video out about that soon, so I'm going to kind of hold my opinion on that. You'll have to watch the video. But I appreciate you asking.
You can be a student at 56 years old. Come on. Daddy Duck 365.
Go K-State.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think we covered a lot of, good topics for public land guys. I mean, it's really about just going out there and putting in the legwork and expanding, getting more people in your group, networking. I think all those things leads to more ducks. I'm super pumped for this season, though, getting back up there with you guys. And I mean, I always have so much fun. I'm really pumped about getting you on some ducks down here. So
I'm pumped about that too.
I think there's going to be some devastation and destruction left from our trail, though. And
there's going to be bodies everywhere.
Bodies everywhere. And I'm so pumped for that. I may see you in Nebraska. I mean, even if we don't hunt together, we're going to be right around your area. So, if y'all got time, we'll probably stop in there. And aren't you shooting the Affinity this year?
Yep. I just switched to the Affinity. So I haven't put target loads through it. Haven't had any issues, but it's going to get tested this season. But it's also an inertia-driven system, which I'm a fan of.
So you haven't actually shot it at targets or anything, or clays or anything?
No, I put probably 150 target loads through it so far, and I haven't had any issues.
Awesome.
Actually, I had some issues. My brother shot it, and it didn't cycle, but I think he wasn't holding it like tight to his shoulder. So I think that was the issue. There's no inertia to be had.
Yeah.
He was not holding it tight. So
Gotcha. Decided to give up on the Stoker.
yeah. Missed too many opportunities with that. I was like, see ya.
Yeah.
Now, I was kind of surprised you didn't get a new gun this year.
I mean, I wanted one, but I contacted the company about it, and they wanted to talk about it a little bit, but they never followed through with it. I just didn't have it in the budget. I needed so much other stuff. It'll work good enough, hopefully. If all else fails, I'll try to go sell it and get a Mossberg 500 for like $300 or something. How often do you shoot in the off season to keep the dust off?
Not that often. It's pretty, when dove season opens on the 1st, it's pretty rusty.
Same
I
here.
could probably shoot 3 times over the summer, maybe 2 or 3 times.
That's about what I do. Me and the wife, I get out and shoot.
Did you just read Tim's?
Yeah. We're not looking for Aiden a girlfriend right now, guys. We're waiting until duck season's over with. I don't want him tied up when we're trying to kill mallards.
Yeah, Jake doesn't want me getting distracted during what's really important.
Yeah, Aiden had like this girl he's talking to an hour and a half away from everywhere that's good, like out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, yeah, we can't do this, man.
Just,
I'm over in such and such this weekend. I'll meet you on Sunday. But what do you guys think about Boss? Man, I think it's awesome, but I'm just not paying that much for shells. I've killed thousands with steel, so.
I mean, freelance duck hunting's got a pretty interesting video coming out at some point. I don't know when, but they definitely work, but they're so expensive. For me, it's not. I'm not going to buy them yet. But.
From what I gathered from Elliot, he said that his numbers didn't show that it made much of a difference. Like he still killed the same amount, cripple amount was the same. But
that's kind of what he was saying. But he'd also had probably, was able to change the way he shot because of the Boss. He knew he could knock him down at 40. It's where before he, may not have tried that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Man, I'm hoping to get to Mississippi soon. I met a guy over there and would like to go, but it's kind of, I don't like making plans. I only plan with Aiden because he has to. I mean, I find it best just to go when you can and try to judge stuff off the weather and all that good stuff. But obviously, you gotta plan sometimes, and so I don't know if I'll make it to Mississippi or not, but I want to. Mississippi and Tennessee, actually. Kind of thinking about doing Iowa and Wisconsin if things work out this year too. So that'd be a couple of stops in the Mississippi flyway.
I'd love to try Montana or Wyoming. Like if I could go one place this season, that's where I would go. But I just don't really, have the funds yet or the time.
Yeah.
I feel like I probably need a nicer vehicle to make it up there. So I've been dealing with misfires really bad in my truck. So I was going to go scouting tomorrow, but it's so bad. Like I can't go scouting tomorrow and I can't get it in until Tuesday. So I'm actually kind of in the limbo right now.
Montana is a big one for me too. I'm really hoping to get there. Nodak, South Dakota, Montana, those 3 are definitely in my top 5. I want to go hunt those rivers in Montana. Oklahoma is a big one for me. I mean, I think that's definitely one of the hottest spots in the nation right now. I mean, if you're into killing mallards, Oklahoma is a good place to go. Dream destination hunt. That's what we're kind of talking about. So yeah, Montana, Nodax, South Dakota, Oklahoma, and Washington. I'd say those are my top 5.
I'd say snow geese in May in Canada would be probably my number 1. Just I've heard, and I don't really know much about it, but I've heard that snow geese in May up north kind of turn more to like they decode more like Canada's do, like come in instead of like come down to your spread. So I think that would be number 1 for me, and then probably 2 through 5 would be Idaho, Montana, Washington, and maybe Manitoba or something like that up north.
Yeah. For me, Washington and Oklahoma would be strictly because of the amount of mallards they get. A lot of those northern states, you got to catch them just right. It's like they're pass-through states. Like the migrations there is good. Whereas like Oklahoma used to be Arkansas, like that's where they're stopping. Like they're about to pile up there, and there's just like lots of birds. So those are 2 big ones for me. And I would like to go to Canada, but it's so early. Like a lot of the ducks they shoot aren't even in full plumage. The early stuff they do up there. You see a lot of guys, you can't tell the difference between the drake and the hens. But I would be interested in doing Canada for sure at some point. This guy asked, are you doing snows in Kansas?
Hey, Ricky. Yeah, I'll be doing snows again this year. I don't have anything certain planned, but I'd like to try and just hunt over snows in October this year. There was a couple spots I noticed the snows were at last season in October, where I feel like if I set up a snow goose spread, I'd for sure shoot ducks and then maybe some bonus. So I'd like to try that in October. And then, I'll be chasing them again as soon as they open up spring conservation season. So if you ever want to come up, Ricky, I'd love to hunt with you. And maybe someday we can, someday down the line, I'd like to just follow migration all the way up to South Dakota and Nodak and just finish it off April and May, finish the snow goose migration off. That'd be epic.
Yeah. That's my dream too. Like start as early as possible, like early honkers in Nodak in like August. Go to Canada, September, hunt all the way to like April the next season or May even, on the spring conservation. So hunt for like 7 months. That's like my goal. Arkansas is a great snow destination, man. I mean, we get so many millions of snows. I think it's actually number 1 in snow harvest by far.
Really?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like 5 years ago to 10 years ago, I mean, we'd kill them as much as you wanted. It's kind of been taken over by guides now. Like used to, you could go wherever you wanted. There was no permission thing. People didn't care about it. But now guides are like day leasing spots, and it's really been destroyed. But yeah, I mean, it would be nothing to see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of snows just like all over the state, but that's kind of, we still got just as many. It's just they're way more pressured and it's hard to get on them now. What are the chances of Glenn hunting with us? Hunting with me, pretty good. Hunting with both of us, yeah. Aiden's coming in for the opener. I forgot about that. So pretty good. Glenn's supposed to tag along with us on that opener, and hopefully I'll be hunting with him a good bit. I really don't know what his plans are as far as how much he's going to be hunting, but I'm sure we'll get after him a fair amount. Well, we've been on an hour and a half. I think we've kind of answered a lot of questions, and it's been a good time, and I'm looking forward to what's coming up for us this season in the future. I mean, ready to get after them greenheads and have some good times, man.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it. You want to pray for us and we can shut her down?
Sure, absolutely. Dear Father, dear Jesus, we just thank you for this live stream, and we just thank you for all the people who tune in on our channels, and we thank you for the camaraderie and the fellowship. I thank you for Brother Aiden, and I pray that you just guide us to your son Jesus and open our eyes to seeing him more beautifully and clearly. It's in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Aiden, I sure appreciate you joining us tonight, man. I know
Thanks for
you
inviting me.
take time out of the schedule, and I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for inviting me. I'm looking forward to seeing you soon.
You too, man. I'll holler at you here in a few days, I reckon.
Oh, yeah.